Today we are going to start the module number 4 where we are going to learn what is Docker Compose and why we need this. A quick definition for this will be it allows us to run multiple containers with a single command. First, let's understand the problem why we need this. Suppose you are building a Spring Boot application and your architecture is looking like this. You have added the dependency of MySQL inside the Spring Boot application to perform some task. At the first glance, it looks very simple. But how you'll run this? First of all, we'll start this MySQL container, right? MySQL first. By using this command, you will run your MySQL container in the first step. The second step will be like checking whether the container is running or not. By using which command? Docker ps. After that, the step number 3 will be building your Spring Boot application by using docker build. Why I am repeating this command means so that for each session you will at least get a revision of whatever you learned till now. Now the step 4 will be become run the Spring Boot container. By using this command you will run your Spring Boot application. And the step number 5 will become configuring the database connection. How you will configure the database connection? In your properties file. Your properties file is going to look like this. So these many steps you just have to do for only one extra dependency, that is MySQL for your Spring Boot application. Imagine for Redis, Kafka, API gateway and so many other service you have there in your project. How the architecture will look like? Suppose a production based application architecture will look like this. API gateway, under the API gateway user service, tenant service, payment service are there. Do you manually start all of these 7 services every day? No, right? So this problem has been solved by the Docker Compose. It allows us to run multiple containers with a single command. How it is doing, we'll see it right now. So how the Docker Compose solve the problem? Instead of running 6 different commands, instead of that, what we can do? We have to create a configuration file, and the config file is going to be your dockercompose.yml. Then you have to run a simple command docker compose off. That's all, and Docker will automatically start everything. What is a docker compose YML file? This is the file which describes which container to run, then which image should be used, then which ports should be exposed, which environment variables should be passed, then which container should communicate with each other. We have seen we are having multiple services like user service, tenant service, payment service. Then we have to decide, and inside the docker compose YML we have to describe which container should communicate with each other. A simple example how this YML file should look like. It will be like this. Service, we have to define which services, MySQL and image name, then other service, F, image name, user services. This is how a simple file should look like. This file tells Docker start the MySQL, then start the Spring Boot application. We have keep in this manner because without database the application will not run. A more realistic files will look like this. Services, port number, and the environment variables, and the services and the port. Now we have defined both the container inside this docker compose YML. Now we don't have to start each and every service manually. Instead of that, just one command, docker compose off, and it will start both the container. What will be happen when we start this command? What will be happen internally? for this particular file. First of all, read the configuration. It will read the configuration from the docker compose file. Then it will start the MySQL. Then start Spring Boot. Then it will create the network. Then it will connect the container and your application is ready, right? So in this process we have a step, create a network. So docker compose automatically create the network. Suppose you have MySQL running in the port number 3306 and your Spring Boot application running in the port number 8080. So without docker compose, connecting this container can be difficult. Docker compose automatically create a private network. Now the application create a private network and it will connect both the container Spring container with the MySQL container. Now the application does not use localhost. Instead of this, what it will use? It will use JDBC MySQL 3306 user DB. Did you notice something? Here it's MySQL, not the localhost. So it's taking the service name. This is a very important concept, creating network. So the docker compose is creating network automatically. Let's summarize what we get to know about the docker compose. One command deployment, automatic networking, environment variable management, easier onboarding. These are the things why the companies are using the docker compose. Without docker compose, you have to install the MySQL, Redis, Kafka, everything manually. With docker compose, just one single command. That's all for today. We'll see more about this in the next session.